Hello, Alabama. Bama fans didn't believe what Finebaum said? Let's get to the news. First, subscribe to the channel to receive more Alabama news. Paul Finebaum brought an interesting perspective on the Alabama-Tennessee matchup, placing the game in a context of fundamental importance, especially for the future of the playoffs. The veteran analyst stated that the traditional third Saturday in October between the two SEC powers goes far beyond just the historic rivalry this year. In addressing the situation of the two teams, he highlighted the growing pressure on Alabama and Tennessee, and the impact this game will have on both teams' chances in the college football playoffs. Finebaum emphasizes that Alabama, even after inconsistent performances in recent weeks, is still being seen as a potential playoff contender. However, he questions that perception, considering the recent challenges faced by the Crimson Tide. Alabama, currently ranked number 7, came from behind to pull away from South Carolina, winning 27-25 in a game that nearly resulted in a second straight SEC loss. The team struggled to hold off the Gamecocks until the final moments, with a heroic effort by Lon Norris Sellers and NYCK Harbor resulting in a thrilling touchdown with less than a minute remaining. However, the two-point attempt failed, and the subsequent kickoff recovered by South Carolina was intercepted at the goal line by Domani Jackson, securing the Crimson Tide's dramatic victory. That result, coupled with the recent loss to Vanderbilt, calls into question Alabama's consistency. Finebaum was clear that he was surprised to see Alabama still being mentioned as a playoff team, given what he described as dismal performances in recent weeks. Alabama, traditionally a dominant power under DeBoer, now faces a challenging schedule that includes games against LSU, Missouri, and a tough visit to Oklahoma. The commentator noted that the LSU game in particular could be the deciding factor for the Crimson Tide's hopes this season, especially if they failed to pull off a convincing win against Tennessee. On the other hand, Tennessee, coming off a 23-17 overtime win over Florida, is also in a tough spot. The number 8 seeded Volunteers put on a solid performance, with Dylan Sampson scoring his third touchdown of the game on a 1-yard run in overtime. That one was crucial, keeping Tennessee in the running, but as Finebaum pointed out, a loss to Alabama could be disastrous for their playoff hopes, especially with a tough matchup against Georgia still on the horizon. He argues that a second loss, followed by a likely tough matchup in Athens, would all but eliminate Tennessee from the title race. Alabama fans may be nervous that the team is underperforming, but Finebaum points out that ultimately, the Crimson Tide season is still in their hands. The win over South Carolina was close, but it was a win. A win over Tennessee this coming weekend could restore confidence and put Alabama back on track for a strong playoff run, even if recent reviews suggest otherwise. But the story of the game isn't just about pressure and recovery. It's about legacy and tradition. The third Saturday in October has always carried historical weight, and this rivalry remains one of the most intense in college football. Alabama is looking to reaffirm its status as a great, while Tennessee is trying to keep alive its hopes of winning the national title for the first time since 1998. Finebaum is right that the stakes are high, not just for the teams, but for the narrative of college football itself this season. This matchup between Alabama and Tennessee will be a deciding one. The outcome will not only determine the future of the playoffs, but it will also reinforce recent trends for both teams. For the Crimson Tide, the opportunity to answer the critics and reaffirm their position as a title contender is within their grasp. What happens on Saturday will shape the rest of the season, and who knows, the fate of both teams on the national stage. Amid the speculation and uncertainty, one thing is clear. This will be a game no one can afford to miss. Let's move on. The upcoming Alabama-Tennessee matchup offers a rare and fascinating perspective for veteran head coach Mike Bush, who knows both coaches well who will be in charge of the teams on Saturday. Alabama's Kalen DeBoer and Tennessee's Josh Heupel share South Dakota roots, and Bush, who has coached both, has a unique perspective on these two college football greats. This unusual story begins decades ago in the small towns of the Mount Rushmore state. DeBoer, a graduate of Millbank High School, and Heupel, a graduate of Central High School in Aberdeen, played for schools separated by just 90 minutes on the road. For a state like South Dakota, having two sons represent major college football programs is a source of pride, and Bush shares that sentiment. He watched DeBoer's development as a player firsthand and later faced Heupel on the field as an opponent. DeBoer has always been a versatile player. While playing under Bush at Millbank, he excelled as a punter, linebacker, and wide receiver. He was the kind of athlete who not only contributed in multiple areas, but excelled at each of them. According to Bush, DeBoer seemed born to punt, rarely missing and averaging an impressive 40-plus yards per punt. On defense, he had the intelligence to call plays and the physical ability to cover the field from sideline to sideline. But it wasn't just as a defender that DeBoer shined. He also excelled as a wide receiver, showing a unique ability to adjust his body for difficult catches, especially on fade routes. Bush fondly remembers how DeBoer, in partnership with his quarterback cousin, would turn seemingly lost plays into big gains. Even under pressure, DeBoer remained calm and always found a way to make the play happen. He was a quiet leader, but a player everyone knew they could count on in the crunch time. Meanwhile, Josh Heupel, who graduated a few years after DeBoer, followed a different path at Aberdeen. Playing under a West Coast-inspired offense, Heupel quickly emerged as a talented and cerebral quarterback. Bush had the privilege and challenge of coaching against Heupel twice during his high school years. And even though he was familiar with the style of offense Aberdeen Central ran, Bush admits that Heupel was difficult to stop on the field. Heupel ran the offense with a precision that was uncommon for a high school player. He had an advanced understanding of defensive coverages and knew exactly how to exploit an opponent's weaknesses. Bush recalls that even with a good game plan, it was impossible to completely contain Heupel, who led his team to a stunning turnaround in 1995, going from a 1-7 season to 7-1 the following year. This transformation exemplifies the impact Heupel could have on a team. Now, with both coaches leading elite college football programs, Bush is proud to see these two sons of South Dakota reach the pinnacle of their careers. While big-name programs like Alabama and Tennessee are often led by coaches from large urban centers, the rise of DeBoer and Heupel is a reminder that talent and leadership can come from anywhere, even the small towns along Highway 12. Alabama, under DeBoer, and Tennessee, led by Heupel, will take the field not only to compete for a victory that could shape their seasons, but also to write another chapter in their intertwined stories. DeBoer and Heupel have built their careers on parallel paths, each with their own style, but both driven by a passion and intelligence that have put them at the center of the college football landscape. This Saturday, their teams will collide in one of the most anticipated games of the season. And while the focus will be on the players on the field, it's impossible to ignore the impact these two South Dakota leaders had on the game. When it's all said and done, Mike Bush will be in front of the television, watching with pride as two of his former Chargers face off on one of college football's biggest stages. For him, and for everyone else who shares this story, it will be much more than just a game. It will be a celebration of the talent, determination, and roots these coaches took from South Dakota to become great guys who stand out in college football. At the end of the video, I want to hear your thoughts on the game. After a close game and a 27-25 loss to Alabama, South Carolina coach Shane Beamer expressed his frustration, but also his pride in the team's performance. In his statements to the media, Beamer got straight to the point, highlighting the team's fighting spirit and acknowledging that, despite the negative result, there were many positives. Beamer began by praising Alabama, acknowledging that the Crimson Tide made more decisive plays in crucial moments. He stressed that no one on his team was surprised by the intensity of the game, as the team competed fiercely until the end. He said he was very proud of his players, especially since they came close to securing an important victory on the road. However, Beamer was critical of the mistakes made throughout the game, especially the fumbles. According to him, it is impossible to win important games on the road, especially in the SEC, when you make so many mistakes with the ball. This was a highlight of the press conference, as these mistakes cost crucial moments that could have changed the course of the game. The perception of South Carolina was also a point addressed by Beamer. He commented on the volatility of public opinion, highlighting how a team's image can change drastically from one week to the next. After a performance below expectations in the previous game, many underestimated the team's capabilities. But Beamer reinforced that his players believed in the victory against Alabama. For him, the SEC is a ruthless conference where each game is an uphill battle. But he emphasized that his players are true fighters and deserve respect for what they showed on the field. Regarding the play's decision, especially on the two-point conversion play at the end, Beamer explained that his team already had an idea of what Alabama would do defensively. However, he admitted that the blocking of the play was not executed as planned, which allowed the Crimson Tide defense to pressure. Beamer also had high praise for quarterback Lenora Sellers, calling him a warrior who has gotten better every week. He emphasized that Sellers did enough to get the team through the game, but acknowledged that the young player still has room to improve. South Carolina's defense also received a big mention. Beamer praised the defensive unit for its efforts to significantly impact Alabama quarterback Jalen Milroe. He only lamented the first touchdown of the drive, saying there was some poor marking, but overall, he felt the defense did enough to put the team in a position to win. Beamer also reflected on the challenging environment of playing on the road in the SEC, stating that his team needed to have poise and resilience, especially in one of the most intimidating environments in college football. He praised his players for staying strong throughout the game, even under constant pressure. In the end, Beamer acknowledged that the scoreboard is what ultimately determines the outcome. And in the SEC, you simply can't afford to lose the ball if you want to win. He highlighted the good performance of the team's receivers, who made great plays against a strong defense like Alabama's. For him, it was necessary to throw the ball to be successful, and his team did that competently, but there are still many aspects to be adjusted and improved. This game against Alabama showed that South Carolina has the potential to compete at a high level, but it also exposed the areas in which the team needs to improve. Beamer was confident in the team's future, but he knows that, in order to be successful in the SEC, the mistakes made today cannot be repeated. It's always good to reflect on these games, regardless of whether we won. What can we improve? From several perspectives. And what about Bama basketball? Have you seen the latest news about Kira Lewis Jr.? Former Alabama point guard and 2020 first-round pick Kira Lewis Jr.'s career appears to be going through yet another transitional phase. The Washington Wizards recently announced that they were releasing Lewis just weeks before the start of the regular season. For many Crimson Tide fans who watched Lewis develop at Hazel Green High School and later in two impactful seasons at Alabama, this news may have come as a bit of a shock. Lewis was selected by the New Orleans Pelicans with the 13th overall pick in the draft, a milestone that seemed promising for his career in the league. However, his time in the NBA has been marked by ups and downs, averaging 5.2 points, 1.3 rebounds, and 1.8 assists in 4 seasons. Even more concerning was the serious injury he suffered in 2021 when he tore his ACL and sprained his MCL in his right knee. That injury not only halted his progress, but it has also limited his participation since then, with just 53 games played since his recovery. Lewis' release from the Wizards, while a setback, is not the end of the road for the point guard. He signed an Exhibit 10 contract, which allows him to be reassigned to the team's NBA Gatorade League affiliate, the Capital City Go-Go, with the chance to earn a bonus if he stays for 60 days. This contract, often used for developmental players, provides an opportunity for Lewis to stay active, prove himself, and perhaps earn a spot on the NBA's first team. During his brief preseason stint with the Wizards, Lewis was limited in his participation, appearing in just one of the first 3 games and failing to score. However, this new phase in his career, possibly in the G League, could be crucial for him to recapture the rhythm and level that made him one of Alabama's best players before his arrival in the NBA. Kira Lewis Jr.'s NBA history has been marked by challenges, especially after the injury that halted his development. However, for fans who have followed him closely since his days with the Crimson Tide, there is a belief that his talent and work ethic will help him overcome these obstacles. The journey of many NBA players is filled with ups and downs, and for Lewis, this could be just another chapter before a new ascent. With the 2023-24 season about to begin, it remains to be seen whether Lewis will be able to establish himself again on a major NBA team. The opportunity to play consistently in the G League could be a golden opportunity for him, allowing him to refine his game and regain the confidence needed to return to the professional level. Let's keep rooting for this guy. What do you think? I want to hear your thoughts now. Comment,